Oh. So you're doing that carnivore diet thing, huh?
Yeah. You got a problem?
What? It's like, what can you even eat? Oh, so restrictive. I ain't about that.
Girl, no, it's about what I can eat and will eat.
What? Why don't you tell me then, huh?
Was that too much? I don't know. That's our intro. Hey guys, welcome to the video. What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the Strong.Sistas YouTube channel. In this vlog, we are going to talk about what you can eat on a carnivore diet.
What you can eat. So, I don't know what that was. We prefer to think of it instead as what we don't eat as opposed to what you can eat, because what we can eat, the options are endless. I feel like when you're thinking of it that way, it's a little bit more restrictive.
Yeah.
But when you think about what we don't eat, it makes a lot more sense. So we don't eat processed foods, refined grains, vegetables,
Refined vegetable oils.
and then if you want to simplify what we do eat, it is
Anything from an animal goes. So any type of animal and then any part of that animal.
So when you think of it this way, it's really not restrictive because there are so many different things to explore that are animal based. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward video of what you can include on the carnivore diet, but if you are already an experienced person on carnivore, hopefully we can still provide you with some additional items that you can feel inspired to include in your meals. So we're going to review 6 different categories of food items that we can eat and kind of explore each category to see what fits in that. So starting with the obvious, muscle meats. So these are muscle meats from literally any animal, and that's what's so awesome about it. You can do beef, chicken, name them with me, quail,
Lamb,
turkey,
fish,
sheep, that's a lamb, fish, oh,
Kangaroo,
we're really struggling. Kangaroo,
emus.
emu, ostrich,
zebra.
See, I don't know. See, you can get really creative and fun with it, but we like to just stick with the basics, which are pretty much beef, lamb, pork, chicken, turkey, quail.
One thing to note though, you may be sensitive to some of these muscle meats. So ruminant animals, cows and lamb, they can be 100% grass-fed and finished. So therefore, I think that that's gonna be the category where people are gonna see the least amount of inflammation or any sort of sensitivity. So that'd be a great place to start. Now, if we think about chicken, poultry, pigs, these animals have to be fed grain at some point in their life. This is just so that the farmer can be productive and make money on these animals. So they're actually fed grain and feed at some point in their life. So this can be inflammatory for some people. I know that I am personally inflammatory to conventional pork products. That's why we always suggest trying to find pastured poultry or pastured pork. And the term pastured is not well regulated, so it's super important to actually reach out to your farmer and ask about their practices. You want to make sure that these animals have access to grass, have access to sunshine, have plenty of room to roam, have the ability to practice their innate animal instincts and live happy and stress-free lives.
Just like this is a species appropriate diet, we want what we're eating to live a species appropriate life.
Yes.
And if you are particularly sensitive to things like corn or soy, you can still find these species with a corn or soy or corn and soy free diet. So that could be something that you look into as well.
So we always suggest trying to find your local farmer, www.eatwild.com, or source from White Oak Pastures. We have been to White Oak Pastures and we know that they practice pastured poultry and pastured pork properly. So those are 2 great sources.
Excellent. So the next category item is organ meats. So this is a whole nother world to explore. So if you're used to eating the muscle meats, well, good for you. There's so many more things you can now dive into in terms of organs. So of course there's the basics. There's liver, kidney, and heart. Those are pretty well-known organ meats and they're excellent. And if you were just gonna pick one, it would probably be to start with liver because it's got a well-rounded amount of nutrients.
If you include liver, you can probably cover all the nutrients that you need.
Yes, but if you are interested in including other ones, anything goes. So let's just name some again.
Pancreas,
thymus,
sweetbreads. That's all the same thing. Whoops.
Tongue,
brain,
This is a lot harder
I don't
when
think
you're
we
on
did
the
well in our
spot.
anatomy class.
Spleen.
Yes. So all organ parts can be included, and if you are intimidated in implementing organ meats or implementing a nose to tail carnivore diet approach, check out our organ cyclopedia book. It is a super simple read, a very practical guide to the mindset shift, and then also some suggested preparation methods to get you started towards including more organs and nose to tail parts in your diet.
Yeah, so we really share our experience with getting into eating organ meats and kind of what that was like for us. We did not grow up eating these parts, so it's not like we've been doing this our whole life, but we really enjoy it now. We do encourage you to explore them. So check out the organ cyclopedia. I'll put the link in the description below for that book.
And if you're just now starting carnivore, you do not need to be fully nose to tail or include a bunch of organs. We would suggest trying to throw in some liver every once in a while, but we include, in this book, we include why you should take a nose to tail approach. So,
all right, category number 3 is just in general eggs. Eggs are my favorite.
Yes.
This includes the yolk and the egg white. So when it comes to the yolk, that's where most of the nutrients is going to be, ironically.
Yeah.
When we were on the standard American diet eating low fat, we would throw away the yolks, literally throw them in the trash, and then only eat the egg whites, and I just can't sometimes.
That's where most of the nutrients are. So in an egg, the yolk is going to be the major fat source, going to have many beautiful nutrients. And then the egg whites are the main source of protein. Funny enough, the nutrients in the yolk are most bioavailable when it's raw, and the nutrients in the egg white are most bioavailable when they are cooked. So that's why we prefer eating our eggs as like sunny side up, over easy, soft boiled.
But it's totally fine to eat your yolks cooked as well, like scrambled.
Scrambled eggs, don't
but
overcomplicate it.
The egg whites, do not eat them raw. They contain avidin, which is it blocks biotin from being absorbed, and that can lead to a whole host of other issues. So you can eat the yolks raw, but always cook your whites, just a general rule of thumb. But within this category, there's so much variety in itself. So first off, you could do other species eggs. So like duck eggs, they're beautifully large and wonderful.
Double the size yolk,
they're
double
very
the nutrients.
rich. And then there's a ton of other eggs to explore. You can do like emu eggs, they're massive.
Or mini quail eggs.
Quail eggs, tiny.
The options are
endless. And then with cooking methods, the options are endless. So sunny side up, over easy, help me. Scrambled.
Poached.
Coddled. Guys,
literally cook your egg whites and then just toss on a raw yolk on top.
Yes, use the yolk as steak sauce.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go with that. On the note of scrambled, you can do scrambled with cheese, which brings us to our 4th category, which is dairy. So a lot of people actually, ironically, question whether you can have dairy on carnivore, and yes, it comes from an animal, so you totally can. But I think that the best thing to keep in mind here is 1, how you tolerate dairy, and then 2, whether it satiates you enough. So when I think about dairy within my diet, I like to think of it as just an addition. So I don't think of it as a main component. I think of it as like a topping, or like I'm gonna put a little bit of cheese in my eggs. So
it's like the sprinkles.
Yeah, it's the sprinkles. Because personally for me, dairy doesn't satiate me as much, so I leave my meal a little bit hungrier.
Yeah.
I could slam down dairy all day, and I just still don't think I'd be full. So,
and something to keep in mind, if your goal is weight loss, dairy is ultimately a calorically dense food, and so it could inhibit you from achieving your weight loss goals, but it does not mean that you have to avoid it. We're going to do a completely separate video of how we think you should source your dairy and why you should consume raw dairy products, but that is for another video.
Yeah, but just as an overall general note, prefer to go with raw dairy, and we'll get into that.
So if dairy is going to help you stick to the carnivore diet and it gives you that variety that you need, there is no problem with including dairy in your carnivore diet approach.
Let's talk about the variety within dairy. So you've got cheese, you can make your own yogurt, or you can make your own ice cream, or you can make your own cheese yourself. And what you can do there is add in cultures, which is going to add in a healthy probiotic source to your diet. So you do not need those. I'm sure one of you got a ad for probiotics at the start of our video. You do not need those exogenous probiotics. You can get it in dairy. Let's see, like I said, you can make your own ice cream. So the options are really endless here too. Like there's so much room to explore within just the dairy component.
right, the next category is seafood. So we get this question all the time. In fact, our mom just texted us this. Do girls eat fish?
Yes, it is an animal.
Fish are animals.
She would not accept it. She's like, I've seen your platters. You never have fish on them. I honestly just prefer to eat beef, but you can totally have fish.
Yeah, a few things to keep in mind about fish. So just a part of this modern industrialized era, we have to deal with a lot of pollution levels, and the ocean is heavily pollutant, has a lot of pollution in it. So fish can have high mercury levels. So that's one thing to keep in mind. That's why I don't personally include it all the time. I love fish though. Another thing to keep in mind is your source. So sustainability is a huge part of, sustainability is really important to us. And so I don't personally want to consume a fish that was shipped over from Greece, for example, because that required a lot of transportation, like ship and plane, to come over here, which ultimately emits greenhouse gas emissions. So I would rather consume a fish that was sourced locally. We are in the middle of the Midwest, so that would be like some Lake Michigan fish. Heck yes, if someone got me some Lake Michigan fish.
A lot of perch. Mama said they got perch.
I don't know.
I think it would be cool to go fishing and get my own fish. I would probably be really bad, but I would leave with no fish.
So the answer is yes, you can absolutely include fish on the carnivore diet.
The variety here, again, is endless. You've got the crustaceans, the mollusks. I'm talking about the things like the shrimp and the clams and the oysters and the tuna, that's a fish.
Octopus.
And then within fish itself, there's so many different species of fish. Like you've got whitefish, salmon. There's like, even within salmon, there's so many different salmons. And then you've got the salmon babies, like salmon roe.
Would suggest trying out sable fish. It's also called like butterfish.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful fat to protein ratio. There's so much fat in it. It tastes so good.
So you can never feel restricted there. There's so many different options. Honestly, if you had a bad experience with fish one time, like say you had some sort of orange fish and it was very fishy, you might consider trying a whitefish. There's significantly different, less fishier taste. So don't just give up there. Explore the seas, literally.
But that brings us to our final category, and probably our favorite category, the odd bits, because we are odd bits ourselves.
Yes, so odd bits encompasses even more. It's honestly overwhelming just to think about it. So you've got things like the ears, pig ears, crispy pig ears, the feet, trotters, tails,
beef cheeks,
tails.
You just said tails.
I said tails. There's so many things.
Yeah, all the parts that typically go to waste and that we didn't grow up eating and are honestly so cheap and make this way of life so much more sustainable. We often get these products for free. So
from our local farmer.
We get a bunch of beef suet. So that's the fat that sits around the kidney. We often get that for free. Yes. And these chicken feet, pig ears, and all these things are so cheap relative to muscle meat, and a lot of them contain really good nutrients, especially collagen. A lot of these odd bits are a great source of collagen.
Particularly the trotters and cheek and oxtail. I think those are probably my 3 favorite things, like considering all of the different categories.
Yeah.
They provide like 4 different textures. They've got the collagen, which is like really chewy and gelatinous. They've got the muscle meat. They've got some fat on them. And then they've also got, if you cook them in a certain way, you can get a crispiness to it. So you get an entirely just very wide array of texture in your mouth just from one bite, and I think that's so awesome.
If you're interested in trying the odd bits, I'd suggest starting with 2. So trying out beef cheeks, slow cooking those for about 7 hours, or oxtail. So again, just slow cooking those for 7 to 8 hours. Super easy preparation methods, and these are the most similar to beef. So that way it's like shredded beef, but in this pool of collagen, yummy gooiness.
Yes, we talk a lot about odd bits in our organ encyclopedia as well. So again, link in the description below if you're interested.
Yeah.
But a note in this category, she brought up suet. So that's a whole nother thing to talk about, which is raw fat sources on carnivore. So on carnivore and keto in general, we've got 2 main energy sources. 2 main macronutrients. Our main energy source is the fat, and then our building block is the protein. Just by eating this way, it's kind of 0 carb, unless you were going to include honey, which is technically carnivore. You're not really eating carbs, so you do need to prioritize getting a significantly good, at least a good amount of fat in your diet,
especially if you are active and athletic, because you need that energy like us. So that's why you'll see us putting a bunch of suet on our plate, because that's adding fat, which is ultimately giving us energy for the gym.
And so in our constipation video, we talked a lot about why you should maybe consider eating more raw fats if you're having bowel issues, especially if you're having the runs, the explosive poops. You might have a little bit easier time with digesting the raw fat.
When we talk about fat sources on the carnivore diet, they're really just the raw fat sources and the rendered fat sources. So rendered meaning butter, tallow, pork lard. So these are raw fat sources that have been melted down, and there's nothing inherently wrong with these. So don't avoid these things. We saute our steaks and our eggs in butter or tallow every single day, but we just don't rely on those for our main fat source. So we don't just pound down spoonfuls of butter or like big chunks of tallow. Instead, we focus more on the raw animal fat sources.
So some favorite raw fat sources include beef suet, or even within suet, there's varieties. You can get lamb suet, you can get
Pig suet.
other species, just back fats, or fat trimmings. Iberico pork fat is absolutely wonderful. We get that from White Oak Pastures. There's hardly any places that sell it, so link in the description below to try some Iberico pork fat if you haven't liked the chewiness of suet.
Iberico pork fat is high in omega-9s, and it has
really
like
good.
a sweet olive oil taste.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different texture from suet. You're actually able to really chew through it and break it down if that part of suet bothers you. So try out raw Iberico pork fat, but other things are raw egg yolks.
Yeah.
And ultimately just choosing fattier cuts of meat that have a lot of fat on them. So things like chuck steak, ribeyes. What else? What other fatty cuts?
Oh, you can include things like tongue, which is almost an equal fat to protein ratio.
And just as in general, just not cutting off the fat parts of the steak would probably be a good idea.
Unless your goal is otherwise and you are trying to lose weight, that could be a method to do that, but that's a whole nother video. So whenever I tell somebody that I eat a carnivorous or animal-based diet, they always say, ooh, well, what do you eat? Like, that's so restrictive. They
What can you eat?
Yeah, what can you eat? They always give me those like crazy eye questions, and I would not be able to live this lifestyle if it was restrictive. But I think what's so fun to explore is all the different culinary methods out there to cooking different animal parts and all the different tastes and textures you can get just from eating from the animal. It's honestly incredible. I can guarantee you, if you are not yet on the carnivore diet and you try it out and you actually get creative with the different items that you include, if you are somebody who is a foodie just like us, you will not miss your plant foods. You really won't. It just takes time.
We're gonna wrap up this discussion with some points, things to keep in mind. So kind of more general, broad. So first is to try to shoot for a balanced fat to protein ratio. As she brought up earlier, on the carnivore diet, fat is our main source of energy. So don't just shoot for lean protein. We think that including both fats and proteins in a balanced way will lead to success.
The second thing to keep in mind is sourcing. So if you are a plant-based person, chances are if you care about the environment and your health, you're looking for organic and locally grown. Well, the same thing applies for eating animal parts. So I would
Sourcing matters.
It really does.
It really plays a role in our approach and your sustainability wise towards the environment.
If sustainability is something that's important to you, pay attention to your sourcing. So what you're gonna look for, it's a little confusing.
First, try to find your local farmer. That is gonna be your first step. Try to find your local farmer.
Yes, and you can do that at www.eatwell.com or localharvest.com or a Google search. But as a whole, there are a lot of terms out there that you'll see, like grass-fed itself can be overused. It's not well regulated. So what this all is called greenwashing, where marketers use certain terms to intrigue the customer that don't really have meaning and they can't be backed or verified.
As an example, at the grocery store, if you go and see the Prey brand steaks, P-R-E, it says on there grass-fed and finished. So you're probably like, oh yes, great choice. Those are actually imported from Australia and New Zealand. So while you think that you're helping your local area, your local climate, that's being imported from a completely different country. And I think that it's more sustainable to try to find your local farmer who's having an impact in your local area. If you do not have access to a local farmer, or if your local farmer does not have good practices, we always suggest sourcing from White Oak Pastures, who are soil kings. They are doing so much for the environment.
Queens.
It's kings and
Jenny's
queens.
a queen. But as a whole, greenwashing, we will do a future video on that because there's a lot of things to look out for. But for now, I'll link in the description below an entire blog series that I wrote about greenwashing that you can check out if you are interested.
We don't want you guys to get fooled by these labels that are honestly just trying to deceive you.
Yeah, these products with different labels are going to be priced higher even if they're not exactly what they say they are. So you don't want to get fooled by that.
The third thing to keep in mind is that you can keep it super simple. So honestly, one of the most important things for the start of your carnivore diet is to find the approach that works for you. So insert names carnivore diet approach. So Sarah's carnivore diet approach. There's no one size fits all. It's really about finding the approach that works for you. Don't overthink it. Include things that you like to eat. You do not have to consume things raw. Cook your food. If you enjoy raw meat, eat raw meat. Find what works for you and don't stress out about the number of meals or a fasting window. If you're hungry, eat. Work around your schedule. Put your meals in where they work for you. Find a bumpin platta that you like to assemble, that you thoroughly enjoy, and you eat that bumpin platta.
Yeah, this lifestyle is only going to work for you if it is sustainable for you. And so if you have to enjoy what you're eating, you have to enjoy the routine you're in. So that is just some things to keep in mind. But now that we've had this discussion of items that you can include in the carnivore diet, or rather what we don't include, here are some sample ideas of just really easy bumpin plattas that you can make for yourself. So the way that we like to make our platters is we think about a few different things. We think about a main protein source, which typically is a muscle meat. We think about what organ we're going to include, and it's not on all plattas, but it's on at least one a day. So it's probably either going to be kidney or liver or heart. And then we think about a raw fat source, so it's usually suet. And then we think about some sort of sauce that we want that's going to make it taste better, so we usually use yolk. So what a typical platter looks like for us is maybe half of a pound of round steak or sirloin steak, or something that's financial for us like chuck. And then we've got a little serving of liver, whether we're feeling it raw or cooked, it doesn't matter, we're still getting our nutrients in. We've got a little bit of raw fat source for more energy, so some suet chunks or some Iberico pork fat. And then, like I said, we're ending it with some sort of egg yolk or some sort of sauce that we made that's animal based. And that's a really well-rounded, nutrient-dense platta that's super simple to throw together, it takes no time. And you can switch in and out things. So like the protein source, if one day you're feeling to have fish instead, just switch out the steak with some fish, or switch out the steak with some lamb
or chicken.
That's where you can get your variety in.
And we also like to include bone broth every day or every other day, just because that is a great collagen source.
We didn't even include that in what you can include. Oh, bone broth.
Bone broth.
Drink your bone broth. Eat your bone broth if it's wiggly, or drink it if it's warm.
And the general approach that we take throughout the week is probably 6 days of the week, we keep it super simple with that meal that she said. And then on one day of the week, we call it our nose to tail feast day. We allow ourselves to go crazy and get creative in the kitchen to challenge this inner foodie that we have. How can we use a new part of the animal in a fun way? And our hopes is to inspire all of you guys to also try these odd bits. So we've included a few nose to tail feast videos in our daily vlog, so you guys can check those out for some inspiration. But those are a ton of fun, and you guys should join us.
Yeah, and if you're still confused, most of our vlogs that we have in the past contain full days of eating, so you can always check those out. And as a whole, if you've enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. It's going to help us continue to make helpful content for you guys and spread the word about the carnivore lifestyle.
But it is indeed time to eat, yo. So we are going to show you guys one of our super simple plattas.
This is our staple platta. Let's see what we got.
Here's an example of a super simple carnivore meal that covers a lot of great nutrients. So we've got some round steak, a very economical cut. Then we've got some lightly seared beef liver, 2 sunny side up eggs, and raw beef suet. And then everything is seasoned with Redmond real salt. And it is indeed time to eat, yo. This could technically include beaver tails. So here we have 2 beaver tails.
What the heck?
This is a beaver tail. This is indeed a beaver tail.
So our dogs are raw carnivores, so sometimes they get little snacks like this.
I'm personally going to pass on the beaver tail, but we are going to give it to the Queen Marshmallow herself.
Marshmallow sitting like absolute queen.
We are going to give this to her outside so that she does not make a mess in the house. All right, you go take that beaver tail and you go do things.
You run with it. You do things. Do the things. To that tail.
Going to entertain her for like an hour or so outside.
Marshmallow, put your ear down. Oh, all right, baby girl, you got it.